So I'd say is let's get focused and try to find the one thing that's going to do all things.
Welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good day, good everything to everybody. This is another conversation that we have with Collectiv Conversations. Collectiv Conversations is focused on talking with FP&A, accounting, finance, thought leaders around people, process, and platform. I am really excited to be joined today by Lance Rubin, who is founder of Model Citizn, which is a consulting services company that helps all different kind of businesses. So if you're a small, medium, large, government, not-for-profit, whatever your business is, and you want to get better information around your data, better around processes, better understanding on those new technologies, he's your definitely one-stop shop. So I would definitely reach out to him for all your analytic, consulting, business services needs. So Lance, welcome to Collectiv Conversations.
Chris, thanks, and really appreciate the invite.
Yeah. So one of the things that you do that's probably really advantageous to our listeners and people looking at this is the role of technology, right? I think when I always talk about with people in FP&A, accounting and finance, or whatever the case may be, whether it's virtual, this technology aspect, right? Like the role that technology plays in high performance in FP&A teams. Give me some insights on to the listeners on how you think the role that technology plays in accounting, finance, and FP&A teams.
Chris, that's a wonderful opening question. For me, technology is just a tool, right? Let's just really break it down. It's an enabler. That's it. I think the problem we have is people get scared with technology because they think it's going to take their jobs. I think, that they think that they're going to be made redundant. And part of that is true. I'm not saying that automation is not going to automate processes, but we're human. We can evolve. We have evolved for so many years. The Industrial Revolution, we evolved, and now we've got 4.0. So for me, technology is the foundation of evolution, right? It's a tool that enables us to evolve. Gotcha. If we want to. If we don't, then it's seen as something else. For me, it's really trying to get finance and FP&A people to see it as a value add in terms of freeing up time to have better relationships, better partnerships, better decision making, better analytics, so I see it as really the toolkit, right? The toolkit for finance. The problem we have today is there's so much of it. You walk into a Home Depot or a Bunnings in Australia, and you're like, which hammer do I buy? Which drill do I buy? There's 50 different drills, and the point is, well, who cares? Get the drill, buy it, get the cheapest one if you want, go and start using it, and then see, oh, geez, I should have got a different one. That's fine. Of course, that's a lot of investment in time. So what we do is we actually consult and diagnose people's problems first, just like you would a doctor, before we even look at tools, we understand their environment. And so part of our journey with clients, and that's why we consult to small, medium, large startups, government, the whole works, because everyone's got the same problem. And it's the proliferation of spreadsheets used badly. Now, I love a spreadsheet, and I love building financial models in spreadsheets. But we use spreadsheets properly. We have standards. We have ways of working with spreadsheets, whereas most of the world are completely rogue with spreadsheets. And so for us, it's actually not about the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is just another tool. It just happens to be the most used tool. So you walk into a Home Depot and you've got this big thing saying a spreadsheet in front of you, so everyone grabs it, and they don't venture to the other aisles to see what other tools are available. So for me, technology is about taking us forward. It's actually the enabler. It's really the burning platform for us to do better work.
I love that. I mean, so many great points that you mentioned off in there. You talked about evolution, right, with technology and FP&A teams. You talked about being an enabler. You talk about this oversaturated about, what technology do I even need, right? Let's dissect those areas, because I think it's, those are really strong points, because I think a lot of times where accounting, finance, and FP&A people struggle is they think technology is going to solve all their problems. right? They think if they get the Microsoft Power BI, or they get the Tableau, or they get the ClickView, the ThoughtSynth, the, fill in the blank, Adaptive, all these different solutions, they feel like this is gonna solve my problem, right? Versus really, really taking that, evolution and enablement approach. So let's dive deeper into, say, like, if that person is looking for that new technology, what do you think is like the foundation level work that they need to do before they get that nice hammer or walk into Home Depot and get that spreadsheet? Like, what kind of car should they be driving to get to Home Depot, right? I think so many people struggle that, like I just said, like, what are those like building blocks from your expertise to say, like, if you got these things, you're primed to have the evolution, primed to enable the technology and really get those benefits? What's your ideas around that?
Awesome question, Chris. I love that. It actually starts before you even get the car, right? It even starts before you even think about Home Depot. It actually starts at home, right? It starts at, okay, what is the problem that I have at the moment? My garden's in a mess. My grass is growing. I've got some holes in the wall I need to fix. It's about understanding your home. It's about understanding your process. It's about understanding what you have at the moment. And I ask a couple of questions to finance teams, and I get this blank look saying, what's that? Data dictionary is the number one thing. So I say, do you have a data dictionary? And they say, what's a data dictionary? I say, well, just like an English dictionary, it explains words of what they mean. Are you talking the same language? Like, what do you mean? Of course, we're all talking English. I mean, I said, but if I look into a system and it says conversion, so this actually happened on a client where we spoke about conversion. So I was okay, well, you've used the word conversion, and someone in sales and marketing have used the word conversion. What does the word conversion mean? And so this happened to be a manufacturing or production house where they converted, raw coffee beans to coffee, to ground coffee. And then the salespeople were talking about leads to converting to paying clients. So it's like, well, this is an example of two words that are English that you're just talking different languages. So if you don't have that, you can't even get started to think about what's the problem. So let's just get the first language correct. Once we understand, proper words and data words, so words that will represent data points in a database or in a system, let's get that agreed. And then let's look at the process. Okay, what happens to that data? Where does it go? Where does it flow from? Where's the process map? 9 times out of 10, I ask finance people, do you have the process documented? No, it's in someone's head or it's in someone's spreadsheet. I'm like, that's not going to work, right? No matter who you go to, no matter which technology house you go to, everyone is going to say, we need to map our process. So if you're going to need to do that anyway, before you get to Home Depot and choose your tool, why don't you just do it in your backyard? Then you don't have to pay people like me to do it. I'm like, the point is that we go in and we do it for people because people either have never done it, they don't know how to do it, and it's not a priority. So the third bit to that ingredient is making it a priority. And so, making it a priority means, either getting investment or buy-in or motivation. I tagged you on a LinkedIn post that's gone a bit viral around the vote, right? And it's fascinating. Most people are saying it's leadership and investment, and there's no right or wrong answer. I think it depends on the different organizations. Someone said it's energy and motivation, because actually you don't need a lot of money. Power BI is free. So why can't you just go and do it now? And YouTube, and I train myself on Power BI and I love it. But the point is, I have a purpose, I have motivation, I have energy, I have an end destination, and that's missing in FP&A and finance. So 3 quick things: data dictionary, process maps, and you have to really get that motivation. You have to, have that purpose for yourself and buy-in.
I love it, man. And I think that's really great feedback, right? To people that are listening out there. Like, you gotta start with the foundation. And I love your analogy. Start it at home, and so many teams struggle. And I think it's I go back to my public accounting days where I learned the Sarbanes-Oxley 404 and the value of looking at a multi-billion-dollar business like Eli Lilly and understanding their processes, right? Because to me, exactly what you just mentioned is a framework that I call the decision cycle, right? Processes drive data. Data is then turned into information. Information is shared through knowledge to ultimately make a business decision, right? And to me, like, where you want to have teams at, exactly what you just mentioned is that process, data to information, right? Have technology do the data mining, the data aggregation, all that Excel spreadsheet stuff that you have that talented FP&A or that talented finance person focused on. Have them focus on the higher value activities, the business partnership, the collaboration, the communication. That's for us how we get scalability, right? And I think it's also an important point. And I love where you mentioned prioritization at the end of it. Like, you have to make this a priority in your business, right? You have to take the time, energy, and effort to document your processes. You have to take that, because that tribal knowledge, what happens if that, you got 15 years of somebody on your team and they leave or something happens to them, right? How are you making sure that the team can pick up those steps, pick up those processes, and continue to be efficient and effective in what they're doing? So I love that framework. Guys, listen, documentation, data dictionary, right? I never even thought about that. And I love your example of talking, that's two people speaking the same language. And now if you throw like an international element into it and a culture piece, I can say conversion. They don't even know what the word means. And, you get into that stuff. So I love those three principles. And you talked a little bit about tools on that. You talked a little bit about Power BI, how you're self-taught, how you're self-learned. If you were to give people some recommendations on, okay, they built the data dictionary, they've got the process maps, they prioritize this, right? What are, from your, expertise and the clients that you've worked with, what are some of those, medium investment small investment technologies, medium investment technologies, or enterprise level technologies people should be looking to accelerate their businesses?
Chris, great step. So now let's go outside of our house. We understood our garden. We understand we've got holes in the walls, and we've documented processes, and we know where all the switches are. We know what the electricity box is, and we've got problems, right? So again, before we get into the kind of drive to the Home Depot, I'll come back to your small, medium, large investment for tools. Tools is not the answer. The next step for you to do is actually to go talk to the customer. So you can get your house in order just to do what you need to do to sort of clean it up. But to really add value and to choose the right technology, you have to go and have a conversation with who you're servicing. Because if I go get a tool that does X, Y, Z, and I need ABC, well, I've just wasted money, time, effort on doing all that other stuff, when actually all I needed was a spreadsheet. Right. So I think that there's a risk of jumping, to your point that you made in the beginning. Absolutely. There's a risk of jumping into tools to say this is going to solve everything.
Yep.
Technology is not going to change human conversations. We need to have human conversations. Technology is not going to find the problem for you. Humans have to find the problem. Technology is not going to be able to design user experience and user interface. UI and UX is human designed. And so, these technologies and these solutions have their own inbuilt native locked away user interface and outputs. So before you bake yourself into a particular infrastructure, no matter what it is, whether it's Power BI or Excel or Tableau, and I'll talk a bit why Power BI, not any other tools later in terms of BI, but the point I'm trying to make is that you need to understand what the problem is, and you need to understand how you're going to add value. Because then the investment to get that tool is a lot easier. So go have the conversation before. Go talk to the sales team. Say, hey, sales, if I built a funnel chart conversion analysis, or by product, by customer slicing, I know you're probably doing that already, and that's the problem. Salespeople are already doing analytics. They already have other tools that finance don't have, because they couldn't wait for finance. So I think for us, digital marketing is so far ahead of finance in terms of analytics. It's crazy. I look at the stuff that the marketing guys have, and it's awesome. I love it. But what it lacks profit analysis. It lacks cash analysis. So that's all good, but it's top line vanity stuff, revenue vanity, profits vanity, cash is king. Where's the cash? They don't care about cash. They don't care how long it takes the customer to pay. They don't care about profit. They care about top line revenue. And that's the problem. And that's where we can influence. But we can't influence if we can't even bring the right sort of, offering to them, because, we've never had that conversation. So the next part of that journey is go have a conversation. Then go to the tools. Once you've realized what you've got, so we have 9 criteria when we select tools, right? We look at a range of different key principles when looking at technology, any technology, right? For us, the most important thing is usability and flexibility, right? Is it going to be flexible, right? Can I use it easily? Is it cost is separate. The problem is people get hung up on costs because I'm not to say that cost isn't important, but it's not the first thing. People think if they spend a lot of money, they're going to get a really valuable system. And it's actually the complete opposite. You spend a lot of money and you get rubbish, absolute rubbish. I've seen so many people missold like big systems, big ERPs that claim to solve all of the problems in finance. And then the implementation fails, and they say, "Oh, well, you didn't have the processes documented, or the people didn't learn the system, or they didn't embrace this new change." No. We didn't have the conversation about how easy it is for people to use it. Right. We didn't have the conversation of how it's going to add value to the business. So, I don't want to run through the 9 criteria, but I'm happy to share it and share it for people and give some links. But fundamentally, we just don't understand the business return, right? The ROI. So for me, like across all 3 of those tiers, small, medium, and large, we should be using Excel, but for specific reasons. We should not be using Excel for analytics. We should be using Power BI, for example. Again, you can use Excel for smaller data sets. And if you're not dealing with a lot of data, use Excel, that's totally fine. But the moment you want to go onto the analytics journey, which is multiple data sources integrated, bringing all of that information together, Excel's going to be clunky. It's not going to be able to cope. So, a combination of Power BI and Excel together. Excel's really good for modeling. It's really easy to use for changing logic. Power BI is complex with DAX and MScript. Power Query is quite good, but you do go down that complexity curve when you're starting to be more flexible. So, combining like Azure, SQL, database structures is important. I'll be completely frank, because I'm not a fan of the adaptives of the world, the OLAP cubes. ERPs are important and they're good for the core tech, but when it comes to analytics and modeling and automation and everything else outside, I'll look at other tools, other technologies, other add-ins that are inside Excel, automation inside Excel, not outside Excel. Don't get rid of the spreadsheet, embrace the spreadsheet, put technology around it and put.
I love that. I love that, man. Don't get rid of the spreadsheet and enable the spreadsheet. And, I think like the Power BI combination, that's one thing that, let's dive a little deeper on that, because I think, I remember the first time I found Power BI. I found Power BI when I found Power Pivot. This is years ago. And I realized at that moment that this is going to change the entire value proposition of what accounting and finance FP&A is going to be. Right. It was Oz behind the curtain of a spreadsheet. I'm like, what did I just see? Like, I just seen Oz. Like, I am like I'm the wizard right now. Right. And like that piece of it has been an experience to get me outside of automate the models, get them running through Power Query, the dashboard reporting, the mobile insights, the AI and machine learning that's already built into Power BI now. It was, to me, and I seen this years ago. I mean, this is almost 8 years ago when I remember seeing and coming across Power Pivot. It was the spoke of the wheel in terms of any analytic capacity, right?
Right.
You could have Power BI with Salesforce data, all these external API connections, and it created this spoke of the wheel that gave me a full perspective in business, right? And I think that Excel knowledge with that Power BI attribute, whether you're small, medium, or large business, that's going to accelerate you, right? Like that's going to get you out of those trenches of those Excel spreadsheets to where, and I love when you said that, like embrace, don't get rid of it, embrace the full technologies of, Excel with Power BI. So, and again, you mentioned earlier that you were self-taught in Power BI. Like if someone's just getting off the board in terms of learning those Excel and Power BI, like what are some resources? What are some use cases? What are some ideas that you want to give the listeners in terms of accelerating their learning from that Excel Power BI road and journey that they may be on or starting?
Yeah, Chris, that's a great question again. You're really pulling these these questions
I'm
out
keeping, hey
really
man,
well.
this is what Model Citizen does, man. You're the founder, bro. You got to be put on the spot, man.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I love being challenged with really good questions, and I'm buying some time as I respond. But the point I'm trying to make is the key thing around that journey between Excel and Power BI. I'd say make sure you know how to use Excel properly first. You know, I think people again jump into Power BI. I think it's going to solve their problems. There are things that you can solve just with Excel. So actually, I would actually say if you don't know how to use Power Query, if you don't know how to use Power Pivot, then start to use those tools in Excel first. Now, whilst I say that, I never did that. I was building financial models. I jumped straight into Power BI and I learned Power Query inside Power BI. And the reason I did that is because I already knew how to use financial models and build financial models in Excel using add-ins. So a lot of the problems that Power Pivot and Power Query solve, I was solving it with another technology, with another add-in. So I didn't need to learn how to manage data in Excel really well because I had this other add-in. Now,
Gotcha.
Power Query came out as an add-in. Power Pivot was an add-in initially. Like now it's packaged with Excel. So I had other tools that were doing that already. But if you're not doing that, if you're not managing your data in Excel properly, then don't even touch Power BI. Manage your data in Excel well, manage Power Query, use Power Query, don't do copy paste. If you're doing copy paste and you jump to Power BI, man, you're gonna get slashed to pieces, right? Because it's just a whole new level of thinking.
Right.
Stop copying and pasting, stop getting people to write VBA code to pull information in, just use Power Query, play with Power Pivot, and then start moving on to Power BI. And then you can start looking at visualizations and all the rest. But, you know, for me, that journey started with, I had a financial model, a three-way model, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow with a rolling actuals, scenario manager, simulation engine as well inside Excel. And really the ability to make decisions and all that was fine. But I wanted to put that, I knew the next step was Power BI for me. And so I just threw myself at it and taught myself Power Query and looked at some great, MVPs and Microsoft Verified Professionals and just Googled stuff. Sam McKay from Enterprise DNA was a great start. Avi Singh, who's ex-Microsoft, is great. Guy in a Cube is awesome. Chandu, I learned a lot from. Oz de Salil is awesome in terms of Excel, but there's a lot of things that Oz does which I really loved, and so I think particularly in the Power Query side, and so definitely have a look at some of Oz's stuff. If you want to try and get some of those basics right. So for me, it's just getting started, and it's not. It didn't cost me anything other than time. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. Like, you could teach yourself some really, really cool stuff just by getting capacity, focusing on the right things, cleaning up your backyard, and then getting started.
I love that, man. And I think like that is a similar journey. So to the listeners, that's a similar journey I was on. I mean, I remember when I first came across it and I just dove into it. But it tying back to what you mentioned earlier about getting that house in order and getting everything ready, you have to prioritize this learning, right? And I think like people that, I always ask people, like, if you know how to do pivot tables, you maybe know how to do V-scripts, like you're like 80-90% already there in terms of learning. Like, you already understand the fundamentals of what a relational database is and how to do these things and how to, refresh times and stuff like that and how to bring in other sources. Like, you already have a strong foundation in that. But to people, like, you have to prioritize that learning with you, right? And a lot of times it's, accounting, finance, FP&A people, we're wearing a million different hats, right? I cannot tell you how many hats I wear in my role right now, right? Sometimes I'm a legal person, I'm the contract person, I'm the collection person, I'm the finance person, I'm the accountant. I mean, I'm like 80 different things in one person, right? But if you really want to step up to that next level of value proposition and what you're bringing value to the business, and I think really differentiating yourself from like other teams and people, like you got to learn that technology, right? And for me, it's always been my recommendation as well for Power BI as a business intelligence data analysis platform, right? Just because you don't have like this whole nother knowledge set. And, you know, I've used Tableau, I've used ThoughtSpot, I've used ClickView, I've used some of these Gartner leading business intelligence and data analysis platform. But I always came back to like, well, this is nice, but it doesn't do this like Power BI. And one of the cool things is like the constant evolution. Like every month, Microsoft is releasing new things about Power BI. Like I think I'm caught up to what they released back in like May of this year. And I'm like, I'm so saturated. It's like, I don't have time to like learn everything. So, you know, I think that's very, very important about what you said about you guys got to prioritize your business, prioritize the learning as well. So shifting gears in terms of like, you know, we talked a little bit about technology. We talked about what those offerings will be. What role do you think technology plays in high performance and partnership for accounting and finance FP&A teams?
Chris, the technology, as I said before, is an enabler. You know, it's going to get us out of our spreadsheets, get us off our desk. And so the role that it plays is to push us to be more human, right? Why do I say that? Because at the moment, most accountants and finance professionals and FP&A people are robots. Literally, they're copying and pasting and moving stuff in spreadsheets. They are.
Yes.
If I speak to everyone, they say, we've got lots of manual spreadsheets, we're moving stuff around. They are acting like a robot. They're moving stuff. They just, there's less time for checking. There's less time for insight. There's less time for conversations. So we're actually not being human. I know that's harsh. I know that's like a hard pill to swallow.
I love it.
But when we come in and we look at processes, like, why are you doing that? Oh, well, that's because it's always been done that way, right? The typical answer. And we know that that is the way that it's been done for 20, 30 years. But let's just touch quickly on Excel. Excel as well is accelerating. Power BI is releasing new stuff. Lambda's coming. There's dynamic arrays. There's a whole lot of innovation in the Excel front as well. And people are still doing stuff the old way. So for me, technology is going to enable us to be more human, which means we're going to have to talk to more humans. Right?
Oh man, you're asking accounting and finance people to get out and talk to people. Oh my God, people's minds are going to be blown right now.
Well, that's where value is. That's where partnering sits. That's where robots can't do that. So why wouldn't we go there? Go somewhere where it's safe. If you continue to sit and copy and paste spreadsheets and move data around from one spreadsheet to another, then guess what? You are at risk. So sitting there in a risk position when a robot can do your job is not a smart career move. The better move would be, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being a robot. I want to automate this process. I'm going to learn Power Query. I'm going to pull it in. I'm going to refresh it. And the challenge, Chris, is that, as you know, this is not a couple of hours savings. This is like when I automated my own role and I wrote an article about it as a CFO for a fintech startup, I got rid of 75% of my time, right?
Wow.
This is like automation, if done properly. I'm not talking RPA. I'm not talking about all fancy AI. I'm just talking about a little bit of VB script and just a really well laid out workbook and some Power Query. You know, you can do some amazing capacity release if you did it properly. And then that enables you to have better conversations. So go on that journey, like learn how to just implement something small, because the process of implementing, understanding the process, understanding the data, prioritizing it is a good learning journey just for you on your little process, and then get enablement to go and have conversations. So for me, coming back to what's technology going to do, it's going to make us be more human. It's going to enable us to go have better conversations, better relationships with people in sales and marketing. And Chris, the reason you're wearing so many hats is because you're doing what I talk about. You know, you're doing that stuff. You are having conversations with ops and legal and everything else. So you're already there because you're not sitting in your spreadsheet moving stuff around. It's done for you.
Yeah. Lance, I love it when you said like most accounting, finance, and FP&A people are robots. Like I love that piece of it because a lot of times what I talk about and when I talk with CFOs and where I challenge CFOs and VPs of finance, regardless of what company that they are, is you have to get outside of the numbers, right? You have to get outside of the ROI. And listen, I'm not saying that stuff isn't important, right? I'm not saying that that's not valuable. But when I think about, and I want to touch on this, transition into this to get your thoughts on it. When I think about the role of what accounting, finance, FP&A is going to be of the future, right? We're talking about a pandemic that we were in, that if you were a micromanager, if you didn't empower your people, if you didn't have technology, if you didn't have all these different, baseline fundamental things, like you got smoked. And probably you're still getting smoked right now because you're just living in this robotic, all the Excel spreadsheet hasn't been updated, so I don't have the information to guide the business, right? So for me, I've always challenged like CFOs and finance, accounting, FP&A leaders to say, you got to get beyond the numbers, right? And this future of finance and FP&A is embracing technology, it's collaboration, it's communication, right? It's being a business partner, and it's almost being like, a business therapist to your financial, your partners that you support, right? Like I always look to my partners, and they don't look to me for the numbers. They look to me to say, Chris, how are these numbers impacting my business? How can I improve these? How can I partner with you? And how can I learn different things? So question to you, when you think about, we talked a lot about this technology, right? When you think about the pandemic that we're in and everything that we're in, what are those future trends that you're seeing for accounting, finance, and FP&A people that they need to start riding the wave right now, or they're going to risk being drowned? What are those trends that you see?
Chris, well, I can just talk from my own experience in terms of my own team. Over the last 6 months, we've seen an absolute spike in the need for financial modeling to really understand cash flow. So, most businesses have not focused on cash. They just haven't. So the mega trend, I guess, is three-way modeling: income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. Having a balanced balance sheet, building a scenario manager. Most of this is in Excel. We're not talking Power BI for the moment. Just really understanding scenarios, options, scenario analysis around, if I did this, if I did that, I have to get rid of a whole lot of staff. What does that mean? Am I putting my business into shutdown mode? Which teams do I reduce? Can I automate some stuff? Really having a strategic lens. So the big mega trend is scenario analysis and much more rapid what if analysis. So before there was kind of like once a month or once a quarter or once a year even.
Exactly.
It's like almost daily or weekly or sometimes multiple times a day. So that's a 100%. Mega trend. And that's not changing. So I'd say that's number one. Number one is finally, I've been saying for a long time, we need to get out of the forecast, the number, the single point. It's multiple points, it's multiple options, it's multiple dimensions around what's the future going to be. And we need to be able to play with that very flexibly and dynamically. So if you're not doing that, forget anything else. And that's just learning how to use Excel properly, having conversations around drivers of the business, understanding profit and loss, balance sheet, and cash. And balance sheet is so important. People forget the balance sheet. It's your control mechanism. If you're looking forward and you're trying to do a cash flow model without a balance sheet, you have half the picture. You can't be certain that your cash flow projections are correct until you've balanced your balance sheet. That's what most people don't, very few people are building three-way models. Very few people understand it. And again, people say, well, we've got too much data, we've got too many divisions. Well, go higher level, don't go down to the widget, don't go down to the SKU, stay strategic, and then build, and then find out where are their pockets of value, and then go for that. And then start to automate some of that into Power BI. So start with a financial model. And I think the next big mega trend is analytics. So I think it's financial modeling first, because to build a scenario analysis in Power BI or any BI tool is incredibly difficult, even for us. So what we say is, well, build something really simple. I'm not talking machine learning, predictive analytics, and all that other stuff. I'm just talking, just the fundamentals of scenario analysis, which is, looking at different options and sensitivities. That's important. That's right. The starting point. And then moving into analytics. And then you can start going into that deeper rabbit hole analytics is a big journey. And as I said, Power BI for me has been a 3-year journey. That's just Power BI. I'm not talking about data science. I don't want to touch data science because that's not my skill set. I know enough to be dangerous. We actually did a predictive analytics project for a client last year, and we weren't able to extract the value because the data wasn't of a high quality. And we actually said this before we started, but we were told that the data's fine and it's all good. We should continue. And so, in the end, we were told, well, we need to fix the model so that the outcome is correct. I'm like, we can't fix the model. The data's rubbish. So, this is the whole challenge. When you get into those rabbit holes, you get off track. And so I think for me, the mega trend is absolutely financial modeling, learning how to build a really good cash flow model, because without cash, businesses won't survive.
That's king, man. Critical. Cash is king.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think I would agree with you 100%, man. I think it's about, I love your approach around 3-way modeling too, right? You got to have income statement balance. So many people just focus on, and I come from the startup space where profits were a dream, cash is a reality, right? Like I could do all the scenario modeling I did around revenue, but if we didn't have money to pay our people, none of that matters at the point, right? So I think people need to, focus on that 3-way modeling, be more flexible, like you mentioned, right? Flexibility across the business, no single point of failure around a forecast, because I'm doing forecasts where I'm looking at best, worst, medium, most likely, and I'm updating this stuff on a daily basis. So I think that's a very important point. And, in wrapping up and closing, and we're thinking about, what is that piece of advice or knowledge or, thing for our listeners to think about that they should take away as they go into 2021, thinking about the current pandemic that we're in, the value proposition that we're driving. What's your final kind of highlight to all the listeners?
Chris, you gave me a heads up on this question, so thanks for that one at the start. So I thought about this, and I guess in the past I would have talked about mindset and get stuck in. I think what we have now is there's too many options. There's too many distractions. There's a lot of pressure. So I'd say is let's get focused and try to find the one thing that's going to do all things. So find that one thing that you're going to get priority on and say, this is what I'm going to do for 2021, because 2020 is pretty much gone, right? So what's the thing? It's gone. Thank God it's gone, but the pandemic and the virus and all the rest is going to be with us for a while, I think, even despite, the vaccine. But the point I'm trying to make is, what's that one thing that you're going to focus on that's going to impact many things? So is it documenting the process? Is it getting a data dictionary? Is it learning Power Query? Is it learning Power BI? Is it, Power Pivot? What is that one thing? So get focused on the one thing. Forget third-party tools just for the moment, right? And that's, I think that's a massive distraction. Just look at what you have now. If you don't have the latest Excel, 365, that's your priority. Go get it. I'm still gobsmacked by massive listed Australian companies still stuck on Excel 2010. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, they're talking about Power BI. I said, but you haven't even got Office 365. I said, why are you even talking about Power BI? You haven't even got the basics of Power Query. So people don't even have the ability to look into the stuff. So for me, it's what's the one thing, and don't give up on it, because it's the one thing that's going to change everything.
I love that, man. I think that's great advice for everybody. The one thing to do all things. I'm going to steal that, Lance. That's a fire moment right there, bro. But hey, Lance, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you being part of Collectiv Conversations. If people want to look you up on your socials or follow you or learn information about you, where should they find you?
Probably the best place is LinkedIn, and then Model Citizn, www.modelcitizn, modelcitizn.com. So modelcitizn.com or LinkedIn is a great place to start.
Awesome, man. Thank you for being part of Collectiv. And to all the listeners out there, look up Lance. He knows, his content. I look at his stuff. I've learned so much from here today. I've been taking notes the whole time, so I'm going to probably pick your brain on some stuff. But thank you for being part of Collectiv Conversations, and stay safe and well. Thanks, Lance.
Thanks, Chris. You too. Have a great Christmas and New Year.
Awesome.